On 5 News tonight, big trouble for Big Sam. Alton Towers owners are hit with a £5 million fine. And the world's first 3-parent baby born using a new DNA technique.
Because the size of the contracts now, the contract will be worth 30–40 million.
England boss Sam Allardyce faces a fight to save his job after being caught in a sting by undercover reporters. He's had just 1 game in charge. Could it be his last? Also, a judge fines Alton Towers owners £5 million for the rollercoaster crash that changed its victims' lives.
A record fine for the industry, but of course money alone will never replace limbs nor heal these psychological scars.
And meet the world's first 3-parent baby born from a pioneering technique that screens out genetic diseases. Also tonight, we're talking to Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. He tells us about healing the latest rift in his party with a man hug and a cup of tea. Also,
we're trying to cram as many of these old favourites in before we go.
A 50-year career remembered. Stars and friends pay tribute to Sir Terry Wogan. Good evening, welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Matt Barbett. He's only had 1 game in charge, but tonight Sam Allardyce's future as England football manager is already under question. The FA says it's investigating a series of allegations following a sting by undercover reporters who were posing as businessmen. He was caught on camera apparently discussing ways to get around rules about player transfers and using his position to negotiate himself a huge deal. We'll discuss it all in a moment, but first, here's Olivia Kinsley.
Sam Allardyce dreamed of becoming England manager for years, but just 2 months in, is this the moment that could cost him his job?
Because the size of the contracts now, the contract will be worth 30–40 million at 10%.
He was filmed making a series of controversial comments to undercover reporters posing as businessmen. He appears to show them how to get around rules on third-party ownership of players, which was banned in 2008.
Third-party ownership problem.
It's not a problem now.
Yeah, I mean there are ways.
We'll still get around it. I mean, obviously the big money's here.
He also appears to mock his predecessor Roy Hodgson and his former assistant Gary Neville.
Send them all.
Yeah, well, quite. Yeah.
Send them all to see Roy. I argued for 10 minutes about bringing him on. Him and Gary Neville. So Gary was the wrong influence for him.
At one point, he's asked about paying agents. This is his reaction.
I haven't heard that.
No, you're right.
You haven't heard that, you stupid man.
There's no suggestion he's done anything illegal, and when discussing a potential business deal, he does say he must run it past the FA. Former football super agent John Smith, who knows Sam Allardyce, says the meeting shouldn't have taken place.
A bit sad, really. I don't know why Sam was there. He hasn't done anything wrong. He's only articulated part of what happens in our game.
England's only played 1 game since Sam Allardyce took charge in July. Today he's been in urgent talks with the FA to decide if already his national career is over. But there was this support from one high-profile manager.
You have to give everybody the credit, and Sam Allardyce as well, until they are proven that they have done something wrong.
History's taught us that all England managers fall foul eventually. Sam Allardyce may be the quickest yet. Olivia Kinsley, 5 News.
Olivia's at the FA's headquarters at Wembley now. Olivia, what's going on this evening?
Well, Sam Allardyce left his home in Bolton early this morning, and we believe that he spent the day here at Wembley Stadium in discussion with his bosses, the FA, trying to decide on his future. 12 hours later tonight, there are plenty of rumours, but no official update on what has or will be decided. Now, the Telegraph has already said that it has more information, which it will release over the next few days. Whether or not that information contains any more specific allegations about Sam Allardyce, we don't know, but the FA for sure has a great deal to consider when it comes to his future.
Olivia, thanks very much indeed. Let's discuss all of this now with Georgie Bingham from TalkSport and football agent Sky Andrew. Georgie, you're not happy with the way that this story has come out, are you?
No, I don't think Big Sam's covered himself in glory today, but I find something like this very unsavoury. I don't like entrapment. It's very tabloid journalism, and the Telegraph's main competitor has come out and managed to trap FIFA and WADA and Lance Armstrong over years of proper investigative journalism, and this is a fake shake, effectively, which I think is below the Telegraph.
But that happens, Sky, doesn't it? And the paper would say, well, A, it's not tabloid because they're not a tabloid paper, and B, the ends justify the means. They've got him talking like he would do, you know, in private, when it's perhaps a bit unseemly.
Well, they've got him speaking about a subject which is something that FIFA are very concerned about, third-party ownership. And,
yeah.
What FIFA don't want is young players being owned by a third party, whether it's a person or a company. Basically, because if someone owns the economic rights of a footballer, then they tell them where you're going to go, regardless of if they want to go somewhere. I mean, FIFA have things in place like you can't sign a player for longer than 2 years, and players always have the right to negotiate their own contract. Third-party ownership takes away those rights.
But there are ways, it seems to be, around this, and it's not necessarily Sam Allardyce explained that. It's easy to see. You only have to Google it, the way it's being done behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, so what it is, like any business, you know, there are people that try and bend tax affairs and stuff like that, but the FA have to know, the FA and FIFA have to know where money's going. So in a contract, it will say the agent gets 5% or 10%. Third-party ownership, huge amounts of money are changing hands, and the governing bodies need to know where that money's going.
Georgie, we haven't heard from Sam Allardyce himself yet. We haven't heard from the FA, but it doesn't look particularly great, this, does it? So soon into the job and only had one game in charge.
No, I mean, anyone in any position of power or influence will be approached by many parties for endorsement deals, for contracts on top of their contracts. And I know people find the amount of money very unsavoury in this as well, because Sam Allardyce's England contract is said to be around a £3 million mark. But fundamentally, it's like getting a spam email that says you've inherited £1 million from Nigeria. You've got to be vigilant about these things. He's just become England manager, and he has sat there and not only ridiculed his predecessor and kind of things that he will, you know, have to apologise for, but they're not serious. He's actually just said, I know the rules from my employer for this, but there is a way to circumnavigate them.
You say not serious, but referring to you know, his predecessor as Woy and talking about his relationship with Gary Neville, that's not great, really, is it?
No, it's indiscreet. I mean, it's really indiscreet and it's not great. But to be honest, I think it's the least of his problems. I think almost everyone in our industry has probably called Roy Woy at some point, you know, in jest. And it's not nice. But actually,
we're not all his successors, are we, as England manager? Sky, what do you think? Can he ride this out? Will he be in charge for the next England match?
Well, I mean, let's get this straight. He hasn't actually done anything wrong. In my eyes, what he's done is he said that he knows about something. He's not saying that he's doing it or anyone connected to him is doing it. It's just that the issue of third-party ownership is a very touchy subject for FIFA, and that's why this is a big story.
You'll think he'll stay in the job then? Georgia, what do you think?
I think this morning I didn't think that there was any chance that he'd lose his job. But as the day has gone on, I think there is a chance he might, because the FA themselves, previously blamed for being ineffective or inefficient, may feel like they have to, simply because otherwise they're basically endorsing someone who's almost ridiculed his employers.
If he does, who on earth would take it on next? We wait to see. Thank you both very much indeed. A catastrophic failure, an avoidable accident where those who were injured were lucky not to have been killed. Those are the words of the judge who fined Alton Towers operator Merlin £5 million today for the crash on the Smiler roller coaster in June last year. 16 people were injured, including 2 teenage girls who needed their legs amputating. One of the victims says they've got justice, but their physical and mental scars will never go away, as Peter Lane reports.
Fate put them together on a roller coaster ride last summer. Today they were together in court. Some life-changing injuries easy to see, as the ride's owners were fined £5 million. The lawyer for the most seriously wounded spoke on their behalf.
The court have imposed what we believe is a record fine for the industry. But of course, money alone will never replace limbs nor heal the psychological scars.
Footage of the crash was shown in court as Merlin Attractions admitted a failure of engineering systems allowed a carriage with passengers on to hit an empty stationary one. Judge Michael Chambers QC said a catastrophic failure to assess risk and an obvious shambles in communication and double-checking led to this needless and avoidable accident, made worse afterwards by woefully absent proper access for the emergency services. Chandaben Chauhan, one of the 16 people injured that day, says recovery is a long process.
I'm scared to go in a car even now, but I do it because I have to. I'm a mother. I want to be independent, and it's taken me nearly a year just to be out here like this.
What's your personal message to Merlin today?
Do the right thing and look after us all. The psychological, psychiatric effects on people are invisible, but they're there.
From Merlin themselves, an apology, an acceptance of the fine, and this.
The far bigger punishment for all of us is the knowledge that on this occasion we let people down with such devastating consequences. It is something none of us will ever forget, and it is something we are utterly determined will never be repeated.
The judge said the victims were lucky not to have been killed in the crash or to have bled to death as they waited for rescue, and that the time-honoured thrill of the fair and illusion of danger should only ever be just that, an illusion.
Peter Lane there. At times, it was more personal than presidential. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have clashed in front of more than 100 million Americans for their first televised debate. She questioned his refusal to release his tax returns. He questioned her stamina to run the country. But who won? And did it really sway anyone's vote? We'll have the reaction live from Washington in just a moment. But first, Julian Drucker reports.
In front of an estimated 100 million people, Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. With the prospect of arguments and accusations, this debate looks set to be the ultimate reality TV show. But it started in a cordial way.
Donald, it's good to be with you.
Now, in all fairness to Secretary Clinton, yes, is that okay? Good. I want you to be very happy. It's very important to me.
What followed was a clash of the titans in an incredibly bitter 90 minutes.
No wonder you've been fighting. No wonder you've been fighting ISIS your entire adult life.
Well, go to the fact checkers, get to work.
There were few knockout blows, but many opinion writers deemed Mrs. Clinton questioning Mr. Trump over his missing tax returns her strongest moment.
Or maybe he doesn't want the American people, all of you watching tonight, to know that he's paid nothing in federal taxes. So if he's paid zero, that means zero for troops, zero for vets, zero for schools or health.
Mr. Trump fired back, suggesting his rival had broken the law by deleting many of her emails.
I think it's disgraceful. And believe me, this country thinks it's disgraceful. It really thinks it's disgraceful also.
I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, I'm going to be blamed for everything that's ever happened.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not?
The discourse only became more personal.
She doesn't have the stamina. I said she doesn't have the stamina.
I think Donald just criticized me for preparing for this debate. And yes, I did. And you know what else I prepared for? I prepared to be president.
As many commentators suggested Mrs. Clinton was the winner, Mr. Trump inevitably disagreed.
I thought we did very well, and I guess every online poll is indicating we did very well.
From her campaign plane a few hours ago, this was Hillary Clinton's reflection.
I think people saw last night some very clear differences between us.
Despite the difference, the polls show America is undecided. It has exactly 7 weeks to choose. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
Let's go live now to Washington, D.C. and speak to Rebecca Cinderbrand from The Washington Post. Good evening to you, Rebecca. Who won last night?
Well, you know, as he said, there's no knockout punches last night, but most of the people who watched, including us here at the Post, sort of seemed to give it to Mrs. Clinton on points. She got a lot of jabs in, and Donald Trump didn't seem to know quite how to respond to her. It's, again, a function and very much a representation of the fact that this is not Hillary Clinton's first debate against a Republican, but this is the first time Donald Trump has ever taken the stage against a Democrat.
Exactly, and him losing in the eyes of you and the rest of the American press doesn't mean he lost it in the eyes of the voters. What reaction from the polls this morning?
That's exactly right. You know, one thing that we've noted in debates past is that oftentimes the people who are watching from a more professional perspective can have a very different reaction than the people watching at home. What we're seeing right now is you're having the first kind of flash polls. These are very unscientific. People who are watching at home, the focus groups also gave it to Hillary Clinton. But again, we don't know exactly how that will budge the polls. This race has not gone necessarily in predictable ways. And, you know, it's going to take a couple of days for this to filter down. And debates generally don't necessarily have a lasting impact on the race, historically speaking.
On that note, then, there are two more of these TV debates to come between the two of them. Will they change tactics? Will he prepare better for the next one, perhaps?
Yeah, you know, looking back, historically speaking, we've seen people who've had shaky debate performances come back and have almost race-defining performances in the second debate. Think about President Obama last time around. Mitt Romney really hammered him in the first debate. He came back, took a different preparation method, came back strong in the second debate and kind of halted Mitt Romney's momentum. You know, Donald Trump has signaled that he is going to perhaps take a very different tack next time around. We're going to see him be more aggressive, or at least he's hinting that that's the direction he's going to go in. There are a lot of things that we expected he might bring up on stage last night, some more uncomfortable subjects such as Bill Clinton's infidelities that he did not. He's hinted that that's something that may be in the offing. Okay,
Rebecca, many thanks indeed for joining us. Next, it's a medical breakthrough that could have huge implications and spark controversy as well. A boy has become the first baby to be born using a new technique involving 3 parents. Let's get more from our health correspondent, Catherine Jones, who's with me now. What's happened?
Well, at the centre of this highly scientific breakthrough is a very human story. A couple from Jordan who have tried for 20 years to have a child. They've had 4 miscarriages and 2 children who sadly died young. And it's because the mother has a fault with her mitochondrial DNA. It's now been revealed they've had a healthy 5-month-old boy, the first baby in the world born using a new technique that means he ends up with the DNA of his mother, his father, and the mitochondrial DNA of another woman.
OK. Just explain mitochondria for those of us who forgot to ask science GCSE.
No, sorry about that. Inside each cell is a nucleus, and that contains the DNA from your father and mother that give you blonde hair, that give you blue eyes, and make you you. But around the nucleus in the cell are little mitochondrial packages. You inherit them from your mother. They're like power packs, batteries that give your cell energy, and they have a completely different set of DNA, and it's that DNA that was faulty in this mother. So I've got a graphic to explain what the doctors did. It was the mother's mitochondrial DNA that was damaged, and so the doctors removed the healthy nucleus of one of her eggs and put it into a donor egg from another woman. That's the egg they fertilised with the father's sperm to make the baby boy. So he'll inherit the characteristics of his father and mother, but inside the mitochondria of all the cells in his body will be this second mother's DNA. It's exciting, but as you mentioned, also controversial. They actually went to Mexico from America to avoid strict ethical rules in the US. Interestingly, there is one place that has given official approval to a similar technique, and it's the UK. So the next 3-parent baby may be British.
Interesting stuff, and thanks for the explanation as well, Cathy. Appreciate that. Still to come on 5 News Tonight, we asked Jeremy Corbyn whether he finds his job tough.
No, it's fun, actually. It's fun.
And remembering a broadcasting legend, the Stars turn out for a special service in honour of Sir Terry Wogan. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. 3 days after being re-elected as Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn has told 5 News that lots of his MPs who wanted him out are now backing him again. At his party's conference in Liverpool, he described his job as fun and he shrugged off a row with one of his senior colleagues about a speech on Trident. Our political editor Andy Bell spoke to Mr Corbyn today and is in Liverpool now. So, Andy, what's Mr Corbyn been telling you?
Well, Matt, it's well known that Jeremy Corbyn has problems with a few of his MPs, let's put it that way. But yesterday he managed to have a row with one of his big allies, Clive Lewis, who is the Shadow Defence spokesman. He was about to deliver the speech on defence to the conference hall when he discovered that the speech was being amended by somebody from Jeremy Corbyn's team just moments before he was due to deliver it. Reportedly, he was furious about that. Now, when I spoke to Jeremy Corbyn today, I said, surely that was no way for him to treat his team.
We're under a lot of pressure of time and lots of things to do. Listen, I had a good chat with Clive afterwards, and we had a man hug and a cup of tea, and he invited me to Norwich, and I'm going.
Talk to MPs here. It's not just maybe ideas. They're also concerned about the way you have run the Labour Party, the way you've run your office, and I put to you that what happened yesterday is not going to make them any keener to come back and operate in that system.
I put to you, this party is the biggest membership it's ever been. I put to you, this party in Parliament, working together, defeated the government many times over the past year.
Are any MPs coming back to you?
Lots of MPs are coming back.
Lots of MPs are coming back to say they want to serve in your shadow cabinet?
Yeah.
You also have talked in the past about your concern about abuse of people within the party. Now, I know you're concerned about it. Your Shadow Chancellor, John McDonnell, has not apologised for suggesting that a female Conservative politician could be lynched. Shouldn't he apologise about that?
He did absolutely clear that issue up, and that thing.
I don't think he apologised.
Well, no, absolutely, John did, and it's certainly not John's position at all. Listen, abuse has no place anywhere in public life, anywhere in private life, anywhere in politics.
Shouldn't you have made it clear to John McDonnell that he should have apologised?
John is not an abusive person. John is somebody that protects people against abuse.
Yesterday, he'd caused some confusion, apparently protesting about something he could change.
Are you going to bring back a mental health minister?
Yes,
I mean, you were famously photographed, saying, "Bring back the mental health minister." You are going to do that? You're
yes, indeed.
We've done a lot of work on this at 5 News, and we've had a lot of people say to us what they want is a public inquiry into the state of mental health services. Would you support that?
I think that would actually be very good. The only slight concern I have is that setting up a public inquiry could be used as an excuse for delay.
You've been in the job a year now. It's been a difficult year on many levels. Is it a harder job than you expected it to be?
No, it's fun, actually. It's fun. It's
hasn't looked like fun at times for you. With 80% of your MPs going off saying they have no confidence.
It's all going to come round. Don't worry about that.
Fun and games, apparently, Andy. But are Labour's warring factions now coming behind him, coming together, if you like?
I think it's still a bit too soon to say that, Matt, but somebody who can help me answer that question is Stephen Kinnock, Labour MP for Aberavon, who joins me here. So, Stephen Kinnock, today the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, was telling us that MPs are coming back to him and are going to be signing up for the Shadow Cabinet, and he's going to be announcing new Shadow Cabinet people next week. Is that the way it seems to you in the party right now?
We've had a divisive and confrontational summer. It's great that we've moved on from that now, but it's going to be really important that Jeremy also leads by example and shows that compromise is a really important part of leadership. And I think an important aspect of that is allowing the PLP to elect the Parliamentary Labour Party, to elect some members of the Shadow Cabinet. I think that would be a great way of bridging the divide between the leadership and the Parliamentary Labour Party.
But he seems to be pushing that away. He's talking about further talks about that in November. It doesn't sound as if he is extending that sort of olive branch, that hand of friendship.
Well, my understanding is the door's still open, and that's going to be discussed a little bit further down the line, and that's great. Let's keep having those discussions. Let's keep compromising, give and take from both sides. We're all ready now to do our job as Her Majesty's opposition, which is to hold this government to account.
So would you be ready to serve in his shadow cabinet?
As I say, the first step has to be about building that bridge, which is around the elections to shadow cabinet.
Sounds like no then from you on that.
Well, I think the dialogue now has to be between Jeremy and the Parliamentary Labour Party on what it takes to build a unified team, and I think an important aspect of that will be these elections. I'm really hopeful that we're going to get that, and then we can move forward.
But aren't people here at the conference entitled to say, look, Jeremy Corbyn's just won another mandate to be the leader. He's even increased his mandate in terms of the number of people voting for him. It's time for people like you, who've had your differences with him, to swing behind him now, especially if we could be heading into an election.
I think that Jeremy will lead our party into the next general election, and we've got to be a unified and effective opposition. There are many, many ways of serving the Labour Party, and I'm very proud to serve my constituents as I do now from the back benches. Huge number of important issues for us to work on, but I am saying that I think things would be made easier and the whole process of unification would work more effectively if we were to go down the road of elections to the shadow cabinet.
It's okay for you, Stephen Kinnock. It sounds like there's a little way to go yet on reaching out from one side to the other.
The door's always open.
Plenty still to talk about here. Back to you.
Andy, thank you very much indeed. Now, some of the biggest names in broadcasting have turned out for a special service to remember Sir Terry Wogan. There were tributes from his children and a special poem read by Joanna Lumley. Minnie Stevenson was at the service at Westminster Abbey.
A unique moment for a true one-off, as a rendition of Sir Terry Wogan's novelty hit The Floral Dance played in the grandest of venues. His friends and family remembered a legend from Limerick, while the spirit of Sir Terry, his much-missed warmth and wit, filled Westminster Abbey.
Allow me to plunge into the Wogan archives. That's really hard enough to work under these conditions.
As radio DJ and friend Chris Evans led the tributes, Evans remembered Sir Terry's off-the-record broadcasting advice.
He uttered this phrase: Christy, it's very simple. They either like you or they don't.
Here we go, the final total of this very night.
For more than 5 decades, audiences got to know Sir Terry. To him, never viewers or listeners. Instead, the presenter called his fans his friends. And today, his 3 children pay tribute to their father's generous spirit.
We give thanks for his warmth and humour, for his gentleness and for his love of people.
The service was by invitation only, from the famous faces Sir Terry worked with to his army of fans. Outside the ceremony, broadcasters told us he always made you feel like you were the most important person in the room.
I loved him so much that I just felt bereft in a way that I wasn't able to say goodbye. I kept saying, oh, I wish I'd seen him one more time, or I wish I'd had an opportunity. So really, the opportunity is here.
What do you think Sir Terry would have made of all this today?
He'd have loved it. Yeah. He always used to say to me, it's all a bit of nonsense, but it's an absolute tribute to him.
While inside the service, his friend, Joanna Lumley, closed the memorial and summed up the mood of the nation.
That they simply broke the mould when he was made.
And as Sir Terry always seemed to find the right words, it was perhaps fitting it was left to him today to say goodbye.
I'd rather leave while we're in love, as the song says. Thank you for being my friend.
Sir Terry Wogan there in his own words as he was remembered in a service at Westminster Abbey today. That is just about it from us for now. Sean Welby is here with you, where the next Danny has updates throughout the evening here on Channel 5. For now, thanks for your company. I'll see you again tomorrow at 6:30. Bye-bye.